Good evening, YouTube. This is Kaylin Strang coming at you with my Sunday night dinner. And I am going to offer up a classic. I haven't had this menu in several years. I think the last one I had was definitely before 2019, I think. I'm pulling up this stream on my tablet. That way it'll be easier for me to see the chat. There we go, that is up. This is from KC. Menu 4, spaghetti with beef and sauce. This is packed on the 234th day of 2022. This is done by Sapaco. I have some backup plans set aside in case something does not appear that I would like to have in the bag. Peelable seal worked, and the accessory packet came outside of, well, nothing is in the inner bag. There's no inner bag with this. Everything is just loose. So there is the accessory packet with no coffee. But I got my backup plan in my delicious mug. This sleeve has ingredients and nutritional information for the main, the spaghetti, and a bunch of other stuff on the other side. Chocolate hazelnut protein powder. I think I had enough of this. When I go into the kitchen, I'm going to get into my stash, and I'm going to get something different out of there. Instead of this. Oh, this one does have what I was hoping to find. So, but I do have something in mind for this. Several things came out at once. Raisins. Cheese spread. The FRH, which I do not use. And the spoon literally got sealed inside of the MRE bag. So I literally had to break this plastic in order to get the spoon out. A chocolate chip toaster pastry, aka Pop-Tart. And here is entree itself, the spaghetti. That is it for everything in the bag. I brought back out the coffees that I was going to try last time, but because there was coffee in the MRE, I decided to save that. Well, that stuff smells pretty good. Oh, sorry about that. The reason why I opened up 2 of those is because these only call for 6 ounces of water per packet. And we all know that a cup of coffee is more than 6 ounces. So I am going to take these into the kitchen. I will find another drink to replace this. Hopefully something that will seem more fitting for the meal, and I'll be right back. I am back. I got a lemon lime. Oh, this one isn't quite so green. This is more reminiscent of lemonade. Got waffles here, booger butt and booger butt. Spicy tuna rolls is here. My crasher's in the house. Pepper for the ages is here. There are a few clumps in that mix, but I'm okay with that. Now that I got my cold drink mixed up, I'm going to go get the water for the coffee and I'll be right back. This Nescafe 3-in-1 is not quite like the sweet and creamy. So not as much sugar, not as much creamer in the mix. It kind of smells similar to what you probably mix up if you're adding your own stuff to just a plain instant coffee. And Tim Riley is here. Thanks for dropping in. Sorry about that. I could not hold those back. No tear notch on the raisins at all. And for those just coming in late, this is a 2022 menu 4. This is a single Pop-Tart in here. Oh, that didn't work. I'm just going to cut it. Heck with it. Nope, it was not double wrapped. A little bit of breakage, but not too bad. But it probably will continue to break apart as time goes on. Instead of using the cheese spread, what you would normally put on the breadsticks or even in the entree itself, I have another little surprise. And what I did with the breadstick packet is I took it into the kitchen and I laid it on top of the stove, the label side down. So it's just in between the burners next to the one that my kettle is on. Of course, I shut that burner off once I poured the water into my mug. Just to show you how chintzy this accessory packet is, look at the size of the bag. cinnamon gum. This red indicates cinnamon. It has yellowed a little bit, one more so than the other. Your typical matches, D.D. Bean and Sons. The smallest, almost the smallest salt packet you could get anywhere, and still have salt in it. Usual wet wipe, and the usual rear roll. Now I'm going to go back into the kitchen and get my main and the breadsticks. I am back. I got the main and the breadsticks. Paper towel to dry them off. The tear notch goes across this way. I like to shake the pouch just to make sure the food is all the way down. Almost a clean tear all the way across. Oh, heck with it. Of course, it wouldn't be spaghetti without a little bit of that. There are the breadsticks. A little bit warm still. And then my little surprise, I was kind of hoping that maybe there would be breadsticks in here. If not, I would have gotten out that packet that I got in that box of stuff from an eBay seller. And then Waffles mentioned garlic, said better be garlic bread. So I mixed up a little bit of garlic butter. And the butter is from my fridge, so it's still a little bit hard. But then I actually let it sit. There we go. There is a garlic bread. I think this should be a hint to the ration packers. Put a packet of Parmesan cheese in the bag with this menu or any of the other Italian style menus. I think that will definitely give the soldier in the field a little bit more of a morale boost. And I see Frenchie Sandy in the house, otherwise known as Mother Earth Garden Club. I don't know if you can change your YouTube handle back to what your channel name is. I don't know if those are customizable, like customizable channel URLs. So just a thought in case you're interested in trying that. Yeah, this spaghetti sauce tastes like a typical marinara, not too sweet. It doesn't taste like you opened a Chef Boyardee can. Some of those sauces are a bit on the sweet side. But adding that parm in there definitely makes it all that much more enjoyable. I was just checking back through the chat to see if anyone else had showed up. But this has been a favorite menu for decades. I believe this was in some of the MCI cans, the entree cans from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So this entree has been in the Ration lineup, like I said, for decades. I mean, you can't go wrong with it. When it's done right, it's good. That 3-in-1 coffee has a nice, bold flavor, kind of like G7. Maybe slightly different coffee blend than what is used by the company that makes G7. I want to get some more of that. I'll go ahead and break one of these breadsticks off. Yeah, putting the garlic butter on there does cut through the dryness of the bread, but because I didn't put a whole lot of garlic powder into that butter, I still wanted to be able to taste the herbs that are inside the bread. And I've liked these breadsticks for as long as I've known about them. So that other packet that I got in that eBay lot, I'll save for another day. I do find it odd that Sapaco chose to put a chocolate Pop Tart in here as opposed to some other kind of a dessert option. But I don't know if that was just what they happened to have or if that was by design. Trying to mix things up a bit. Now, speaking of Pop-Tarts, Paul's Gear Review opened up a 2005 MRE that had the veggie omelet, and that one had a strawberry Pop-Tart in it. Yeah, I like the lemon lime drink better with this meal than that chocolate hazelnut protein shake. Yeah, the only thing with some of these Pop-Tarts, when they stick two of them together and then they get crushed either during the vacuum sealing process of the Pop-Tart outer packet or inside of an inner bag. Or, of course, nowadays the newer bag style, which started back in 23, I think, into 24. Yeah, those are pretty much vacuum sealed, so these have a tendency to get crushed and easily come apart just like that. But still, the Pop-Tart is a nice treat. I'm glad I didn't get tortillas or like just a plain wheat snack bread with this. I'm glad Sapaka went with the breadsticks. It just makes it more of an enjoyable meal. It would have been nice to put the garlic butter on the bread ahead of time and then just let it sit for a little while, but that wouldn't always happen. And some people like them, some don't. And it also depended on the flavor. In fact, we still bring them to the lake when we go to the lake every summer, but they don't seem to be getting eaten as much. My great niece is a freshman in high school. Her tastes are growing up along with her. And my older nephew did not make it to the lake this summer. And my younger nephew and his wife only stayed for like a couple of nights before they had to come back to Des Moines. They couldn't get as much time off from their jobs at the zoo, plus they had some issues at their house that they had to deal with. And then my brother stayed at home. He's staying with my two sisters who share a house. And there was something that came up that it's a good thing he was there because he was able to deal with that issue. Plus some packages came and he got them inside so no porch pirate could take them. Yeah, there's a brand here called Toastums. They're like the generic version. That are sold in stores around here. They're okay, but when you get the original flavor or the original Pop-Tarts, the flavor is usually better. But the Toastums are usually less expensive than the name brand. But if you want that kind of a thing, but you don't have a whole lot of coin to drop on a box of Pop-Tarts, you get the Toastums. The Toastums, I will give them they got a good variety going, and their boxes are pretty darn sturdy. And I think their wrappers are a little bit thicker than the Pop-Tart wrappers. So if Sapaco would go to something like that, keep the factory wrapper around it, and then put that inside of the pouch that's like that, I think the quality would it would hold up a little more. Even the Toastums are not completely nasty. I mean, I would still buy them if I was more into that sort of thing, but I just choose not to buy these for myself. But since you have to pinch those dwindling pennies, sometimes you have to go with the generic. I haven't done toast with honey in a very long time. What I have done occasionally in the past, take your regular biscuits, put, especially if it's warm, put a little butter on the biscuit, and then put honey on that. But as far as just toast with honey on it, nothing else, I don't ever remember doing that. when I was very, very young, and we lived on a farm that was rented, but that was only for a couple of years that we lived there. That's what we did as well. It was not a very big farm. I think the owner just needed someone to work it for a couple of years, and that's all the time we stayed there. And then that was here in Iowa, and then we went back to Nebraska. I was born in Nebraska, so my first few years in Nebraska, then a couple of years in eastern Iowa on that farm, and then back to Nebraska for 4 years, and then from fifth grade to high school here in Iowa, and then down to Arkansas for a few years. And then at the end of '87, I came back. Yeah, where we lived on the farm, we probably had to go 30 to 40 miles before we hit a paved road, or at least one that had a stop sign. I think that area now is probably more developed. And where my late dad grew up, in the town of Carbon, which is loosely regarded as a suburb of Corning, there really isn't much in Carbon. There are a few shops, I think one grocery store. If you want something a little bit more as far as amenities and services, then you would go into Corning itself. And of course, the grain elevators are there for the farmers to take their corn, their wheat, or oats or whatever, and their soybeans, to offload those if they were not stored in those big silos on the farm. They had to go to Corning to do that. But Corning has a hospital, and my late dad's sister, until she retired, she was the head dietitian for the hospital. Then after she retired, she sold the farm that her late husband had inherited. So she lived there until she retired, and then after she sold that farm, which really wasn't being worked anymore, then she went to Arizona, and then earlier this year she decided to come back to Iowa. She sold the Arizona property, and she's living in a different town. She wanted to be closer to family, so that's why she's back here in Iowa. Corning was probably a bit too emotional for her. That's why she. I'm not sure if this is true or not, but it could be why she picked a different town, or there was just nothing for her to buy that is what she wanted as far as a house goes. So she found a place not too far from there. But now she can see her grandkids. Give her great grandkids. Yeah, my dad went to his first few years of school. He went to a one-room schoolhouse before that closed down, and he had to go to school in Corning. Yeah, I believe my dad walked to school when he got older. I think when he was younger, either one of his parents would drive him to school. Of course, after he and my mom got married, his mother, who had already lost her husband by that time, she moved to Omaha and started working at a hospital called Bergen Mercy. In fact, that's where my sisters and I were born. All four of us were born in that hospital. My brother was born here in Iowa. I don't remember which hospital he was born at, but he was born here in Iowa. My dad was born at home. Because out in the rural areas, that's usually what happened in some places. My parents probably knew of that car back in the day. Yeah, my dad was born in 41. My mom was born in 43. So they had vehicles like what was parked next to the garbage shed at a previous apartment that I lived in. The dumpster caught fire, and the paint on that 1943 Ford got cooked. Such a shame. It was such a nice looking truck. my dad's favorite color. I sent him. I took a picture and showed it to him. And then my dad's mother took in a man who needed some care, so she was a live-in caregiver. He was starting to lose his vision, so he was driving less and less. But she would give him his insulin injections and check his blood sugar. After all, she's a nurse. But he was like a grandpa to us. We loved that guy to pieces. They were not in that kind of a relationship with each other. She was his caregiver. And then when his sight got even worse, then she had to drive him everywhere that he needed to go for his medical visits, or to have an afternoon drink at the bar. But then after he died, well, she died back in 83. He was still alive, but he ended up going into a nursing home. Yeah, my dad's mother died when I was a junior in high school. But a month before the Yajinka reunion, that was the same year, she had a heart attack. She's only 59 at the time, so that was a surprise to us. And the smell of freshly baled hay, it had such good smell to it. Bales that have been sitting around for a while just don't have that smell. So that's another thing that we had on the farm, was hay bales, because my dad would put them in the pig barn for the pigs to sleep on and root around in. He would do that during the winter. So like I said earlier, it was a small farm. There were not a huge number of pigs, maybe I think 10 at the most. Yeah, I might have to leave that little idea off for a while. Yeah, when we were, my older sisters would help Dad do the chores, but I would go watch. Of course, in high school and when I lived in Arkansas, we lived on youth camp properties, so there were horses to take care of, and someone had to be there year round to do that. And since I did not get to do that kind of a thing as a kid, I enjoyed helping my dad go take care of the horses. Of course, my homework would come first. And my sisters would also help take care of the horses. When they were available, especially during the off season when there were no campers there. During the summer, there would be a dedicated group of 3 or 4 people whose sole job is to look after the horses. Then that would free up my dad to handle other maintenance stuff or emergencies, or to go get supplies like horse feed and hay or whatever was needed. But whenever there were no youth groups there, it was up to us. But I enjoyed just going there and brushing the horses, giving them a shower, giving them their food and water. My 2 oldest sisters did detasseling. My third sister, next to me in age, went to a soybean farm, and they did what was known as walking beans. I'm not sure if they were there to That's my smoke detector going off. Sorry about that. I thought I shut my stove off after I got my entree out of the pot. There's Tim Riley in the house. Another classic from 2022. I put some Parmesan cheese on the spaghetti, and for the Italian breadsticks, I mixed up some garlic butter, and that's what's on there. I swapped out the chocolate hazelnut protein drink for a lemon lime drink. So the cheese spread will get saved for another day. Oh, sorry about that. I didn't see you sneak in. But no coffee in this one. So I got that 3-in-1 Nescafe 3-in-1 coffee that I got from Hillel Groceries. And the box had Arabic writing on it. So that one is not bad. It's almost up there with the G7. I think I still like the G7 a little bit better. In fact, I want to get me some more of that. Thanks for dropping in, Mike. Hope to see you another time. Yeah, exactly. I don't know what the ration packers are thinking by killing the coffee. Go ahead and try some of these raisins. Raisins are still perfectly fine. If they're the osmotic, I would not like them so much. I can't stand them things. I like to see those completely gone. I don't like the osmotic cranberries either. Thanksgiving, I will either go to my oldest sister's house or to the house that two of my sisters and my brother share. And those 2 jars of the pickled vegetables that I got from Hillel Groceries, I'm going to take those with me. And I got that bag of the Hy-Vee store brand fried onions. I don't know if those will be needed, but I'll find that out. If they're not needed, well, I'll enjoy myself. They're not quite as good as the French's, but when when you're pinching those now harder to come by pennies, they'll do. It'll most likely be the usual suspects. Turkey, stuffing, maybe green bean casserole, maybe sweet potatoes, I'm not sure. And there'll be a ham, which I won't eat. And we'll have an assortment of pies. We usually have some kind of a dinner roll. And we'll have coffee and pop or soda. We usually have like a relish tray with pickles, some assorted raw veggies, olives. And like I said, I'm going to take those 2 jars of pickled veggies and I'll put those into a little bowl. Well, fishy, that's crazy. I don't shop at Costco. It's not convenient for me. I have not been in a Sam's Club in a long time, even though I do maintain the membership. I need I do need to get back in there one of these days. I have not bought a steak for myself in a long time. I'm usually just getting ground beef. Of course, I get beef bacon. But I just don't buy steaks. Now, since my birthday is on a Sunday in January, I'll be doing a birthday stream. I'm kind of kicking around ideas. I might do a ration mashup with elements of different rations that I have. I don't have quite the variety of foreign stuff that I used to when I was doing that before. But I got that Korean freeze-dried entree. I think it's a civilian version of a South Korean ration freeze-dried entree. So that might be an option. Yeah, even that is too much for me. Yeah, you gotta pay a whole lot for that bit of deliciousness. Gotta be a special occasion to do that these days. Taking a drink of coffee after eating a bite of that Pop Tart is the way to go. I'm glad these raisins are still good. This 2022 pack case is what I got off of Amazon earlier in the year. Of course, there are some sellers that may still be selling these 22s for between 30 and 45 a case. I'd love to get a case of current run of halal MREs, but those are harder to find at a good price. Well, that'll do for garlic bread. Or at least my version of it. Yeah, some people, if it's just one or two people for Thanksgiving, they probably just get a chicken instead of a turkey. Yeah, I know some people who did that. Wow. You two could really do it up special then. Have a little extra treat that you normally wouldn't do on Thanksgiving. In October of 2008, my parents had just celebrated their 47th anniversary. A few short weeks before my dad died. So we had his favorite meal of all time, which is linguine and clam sauce. We will still have that as a family meal once in a while. But now my oldest sister makes it instead of my mom, but using my mom's recipe. I think we had it one time last year. It's not an every year thing, but once in a great while, we'll have that. But that was always my parents' anniversary meal. They thought it was a very special treat to have that. Unless they were going to go out somewhere. And I think for their 40th, my sisters and I and my brother, we all got together and got them dinner in a hotel room. And we put a few goodies in the hotel room for them to enjoy. So that was a lot of fun doing that. Not a whole lot of filling in this Pop Tart. Plus, it did get squished. You know, Tim, I hope you and your wife have a great time Thursday. 'Cause this coming Sunday will be the last Sunday of the month. I might pull out one of those two rations that I got from Sean Hack. My favorite MCW and that long range patrol. So either one of those, I might pull one of those out next Sunday. Pumpkin is off to my left. Pumpkin! Pumpkin! I slid my table, might be able to see her down below. Oh, she. Pumpkin! Pumpkin! I don't know if you saw her down there, but there she is. She likes to go underneath my chair that I sit on. She'll go back and forth. What's a pumpkin? Silly little girl. Yes, you're a silly little girl. You're a silly little torty girl. Pumpkin. What you doing down there, Pumpkin? Hmm? Yeah, they want to see the kitty, Pumpkin. They want to see the kitty. Yeah, that's just what she does. That's when she's not sleeping like a lazy cat. You're just a silly little girl. You're just a silly little girl, Pumpkin. There's nothing left of here, Pumpkin. There's nothing left. None of it's good for kitties anyway. Yeah, I moved it back to the right so she comes to my left. When she wants to come over here. Totally up to her. Isn't that right, Pumpkin? Isn't that right, silly little girl? Yeah, I got the kitty nose. What you think, Pumpkin? What you thinking? Yeah, her going back and forth. That's what she does. It's a cat thing. Yeah, one year for Thanksgiving, I got my oldest sister out of trouble. I happened to, one year, I bought a jar of turkey gravy. And she happened to have run short, so I told her I had a jar, that I could bring it over. So I gave it to her, and she was able to finish making enough gravy for all of us. So that proves that prepping does pay off, because I've gotten them out of a jam a few times. And a few years ago, when we were getting ready to go to the lake, they forgot to get coffee, and I told them that we had a bunch of coffee that someone brought to the mosque, but Ramadan was over, so no one was using it anymore. So I was told I could bring it home. So I had a big container, probably 2/3 of the way full, of the Dunkin' Donuts coffee, and then a smaller container of the Folgers. So I was using the Folgers myself, and I was sitting on that Dunkin' Donuts. And so, since that's what the others like, is a Dunkin' Donuts coffee, so yeah, I'll bring it. I told them about it, and I'd taken coffee filters that were left in the pack from what was a few that were used, and I still take that pack with me because I don't use that size, but I still keep them in my preps because, as we know, coffee filters have so many uses. So I took that pack, and I take it with me every year to the lake now, just in case they forgot when they're packing up the camp totes. My sisters keep two big totes with hinged lids. That's strictly for use when we go to the cabin, and we just have to, or they put in any disposable type stuff like plastic bags, foil, napkins, coffee filters, plastic utensils, things like that. Although, you know, paper plates and bowls, any stuff, anything like that. Plus the regular utensils that we use, and the plastic plates, and the cooking utensils, and then the coffee maker that we take to the lake. That's the only time that gets used, is when we go to the lake. Plus we have my mom's stovetop percolator. And her big thermos, which almost holds an entire percolator full. Maybe about 3/4 of it can go in there. And then the rest we just drink. And that thing will keep that coffee hot for hours. Oh yeah, and when he takes off, he'll take off. Slide this back. I think Pumpkin is done doing her running around. Yeah, my niece and my nephews and my great niece, they were pretty much starting to stand with help at 6 months. Probably took them a little longer to start to walk, but they have been crawling for they were early crawlers too. Yeah, we take our poles. I have my Zebco 2-piece takedown rod, and I keep it in a rod bag that has a fish on one of the side pockets, and I have a little tackle box and some other things in those side pockets. I have my rod holder in there. But I got skunked this last summer. At least the weather wasn't so obnoxious like it was last year. There are some nasty winds that came up several days. It took out 2 canopies, ours and another group's. And one of my sisters went to Walmart to buy their cheapest canopy. That was a load of trash right from the opening of the bag. We were putting it up, and it was already starting to fall apart. Some of the seams were not well done, and one of the little Velcro loops that you put around the frame, I was going to fasten one of those, and that loop literally fell off into my hand. And we had a hard time trying to set it up because it was windy. But then we were starting to take it down, and a gust of wind came up. And some of the post or the frame bits are starting to bend, literally bend. And I was sitting next to my mom, and it had started to drop, and I just reached up and caught it before it would hit my mom on the head. So the next day, after we did get it down, my sister took that piece of crap back to Walmart and demanded a refund because it was defective. It was a piece of junk. So this year we got a different one, a little better quality. But who knows if it'll last anywhere near as long as the original canopy that we had. We have been using that one for quite a number of years. But that freak wind just destroyed that one. That thing literally got sent probably a couple of football field lengths away from us. That's how bad that wind was. And it did the same to that other group's canopy. Thanks for dropping in, Waffles. Yeah, I would fish more around here, but this part of the Des Moines River, I just won't do it. I tried. Farther north towards, like in between where we have a bridge called the Women of Achievement Bridge. Before that was built, I used to be north of that location, in between that and University Avenue. But there is so much crap in the bottom of the river. I was trying to use a couple of different lures instead of fresh bait or plastic, soft plastic lures. I just kept losing those other lures. And plus now with all the other pollution in the river, I just won't do it. And plus the city has cracked down on people fishing off of the river bridges. Anywhere along the bank you could, but I don't see people doing that anymore. I don't get to the Raccoon River, so I have no idea how it is there. And I don't get to Gray's Lake. Otherwise, I would fish that. I would have no trouble fishing that, but catching something, well, that's probably a different story. Thanks for dropping in. Uh, maybe Sandy. I don't know if that would be the better one to call you, or just Mother Earth Garden Club, because that's her YouTube channel name. But since YouTube has switched to these handles, they're not always recognizable for when everybody will go into the chats or leave comments under videos under the YouTube channel name. But because my handle happens to be my name, the same as it is for my channel name, I haven't had any issues with that kind of confusion. And when I look at my notifications, I'm seeing names that I have not heard of before, but yet I'm subscribed. So people are either changing their channel names or their handles are being used instead of the actual channel name. So that can be a bit confusing. But it is what it is. But the logo, if I recognize the logo next to the name, then I know who it is. Of course, some may change their logos, but some don't. I will always have a picture of Mila. Even though she's been gone for several years, I'm known by that tuxedo cat face, and I'm going to keep it that way. Yeah, like the guy who has Joe Robinette up in Canada. His channel icon is still that green circle with the shape of his late dog Scout, the shape of that dog's head. He still keeps that as his channel icon, even though he lost Scout several years ago and has had a few other dogs since he lost Scout, but he keeps that one with the shape of Scout's head, and that's what everybody knows him by. So I will always keep Mila's face. That way, if something ever happens to my channel name, they see that particular cat face, they know it's me. I do that on Facebook, Instagram, same on my X account. X used to be known as Twitter. Some still call it Twitter. But all of those I have Mila's face. And that's just the way I'm going to keep it. And I could put up a poll as far as what ration to pull out for next Sunday. I could take pictures of that seafood chowder MCW and long range patrol ration with chicken. I think it's a chicken rice, but I would have to look at that one again. I could turn that into a poll. And then the one that gets the most votes will be the one that I will review next Sunday. In fact, I could toss that one up tomorrow. Give people plenty of time to check that out and to help me make up my mind. I think that might be fun. I wish the seafood chowder would still be in the MCW lineup, but it got kicked. So I'm happy to be able to get it possibly one last time. So thanks to Sean Hack for letting me have a crack at it. Plus LRP. I got a good deal on those two. And he was selling some other rations that people had the opportunity to get their paws on. So maybe he'll be able to find something unique. Or maybe he had to get a little money to pay a bill. You know how things are these days. Well, since I'm pretty much done here, it still shows 5 watching. I might go ahead and call this one done. Pumpkin's going back and forth again. Pumpkin! Pumpkin! Yeah, where did she go now? Thanks for dropping by again, Tim. I hope you and the wife have a good time on Thursday. Oh, she was up somewhere and jumped down. I don't know if you saw that or not. Yeah, I just watched the watch the play of that. I got a bit of a delay between my phone and my tablet. Yeah, she was up on something and she dropped down. But I do want to thank you all for hanging out with me tonight for a little bit of classic MRE chow. And tomorrow I will put up that poll so you all can decide between the seafood chowder MCW or the chicken LRP. And then I will close that about midday or so on next Sunday. And then their winner will get brought out, and I will use my Tupperware tray for that one. Of course, if it's a seafood chowder, then I'll need a bowl. But for the LRP, I can put it on the tray directly. Again, I do want to thank you all for hanging out with me tonight. And once I get that poll up, do check it out, drop your vote, and make up my mind for Sunday. Thanks for watching, and catch you on the flip side.